Izzy, it's so good to see you and chat with you. We're going to get into a lot of stuff, especially your first year in the league. But I first wanted to go touch close to home, and your first game in your hometown in Minnesota was end of January. Talk about that experience. And did you have to pay for all the tickets, and was it a free game for you?
No, it's a little different for us than the NHL, which is nice. But going back home, I think that was the first time I'd played back home since high school, so it was a really cool experience. And luckily, my teammates gave me a bunch of tickets, and then my dad also he bought a bunch of tickets for all of his buddies and all of our families. So I think it probably had like 50 family members in that game, and it was definitely a really special moment for all of us. Just all the work my parents have put in for me and my grandparents and everyone who's helped me get to that point. It was really cool.
So, can you talk about maybe coming up playing hockey as a youth player and what it was like in Minnesota, how you got into the game, where the game sort of took you, visions of playing professional hockey maybe one day?
Yeah, it was obviously growing up in Minnesota, hockey's huge, but no one in my family actually played hockey. So we were skiers. My dad was a big skier. So we were in skiing, and then all of a sudden, my neighbor one day was getting dressed for practice, for hockey practice. He was putting all his gear on in the garage, and me and my brother went over there, and we were kind of just watching. I was around 8 years old at this time, and I was like, "Oh, this looks interesting, like all this gear he's putting on." And then my brother and I we ran back over across the street to my house, and I told my dad like, "I want to play hockey," and he was like, "What? Like really?" Had no idea how to put us in hockey, anything. He put both me and my brother, who's 3 years younger, in mini mites. So I was an 8-year-old in mini mites, which was 3 years older than you're supposed to be. And then after that year, they're like, "You got to get her out of here. She's too old for this." And then it kind of just snowballed from there. I was a horrible skater when I started. I really skated like hunchback, bent over.
Oh,
So that
really?
was one
That's how
thing
I
where I was
skated my whole
like,
career.
Yeah.
I was like, that was one thing that had to get fixed. So I skated with Bo Karn and the Karns for a few years, and they really helped me out. And then I went to Blake since kindergarten, which is a high school in Minnesota, and then played high school hockey for them, and then went on to play at Cornell for 5 years, I guess. And it was an amazing experience. But I never really thought about playing pro hockey until honestly I was in college. There was the PWHPA and kind of the other league, the PHF, but it wasn't something that was like concrete or sustainable. So I honestly wasn't even considering it until probably last year when the PWHL launched, and then it kind of blossomed in its first year. So I was like, oh, this would be a pretty cool opportunity. And then when it came in front of me, it's something that I feel like you can't pass up, and it's been a really good experience.
So that's great to hear. I have a daughter, Isabella, actually, who's just now telling me she wants to get into hockey as
Oh,
a 7-year-old,
There you
and
go.
her older brother
Awesome.
plays. But it's not too late. Then that's
well, yeah.
exciting for me. I want
How,
to get her out there on the sheet.
yeah, how was that?
Yeah.
You started at 8 years old, and you're playing, I think, with your brother who was in mini mites. Like, how was
Yeah.
that experience? Like playing with the boys and mixing it up, and especially being a little bit older.
You must have dummied your brother.
Oh, hammered him.
Yeah, he would even maybe admit that, I would say, I would hope. But yeah, I played with the boys until I was, I think, 13 or 14. So after that, I played like squirts or peewees, I think, at Minnesota Made. It was called I don't I think it still exists. Like it was a choice league. So it was co-ed, but there was, I think, one or two girls on my team. And then I grew up in Minneapolis, so I played association hockey for 2 years after that with the Minneapolis Storm. Um, and then I played high school, but it was actually pretty cool. This summer I went back and helped coach the girls in the summer, their program. Um, so kind of it was a full circle moment going back to Minneapolis. But yeah, I mean, playing with the boys I think was definitely an advantage when I was in probably the most developmental years of my young career, I guess. They're obviously a lot bigger, stronger. So I think that was really helpful in my development.
I mean, let's talk now. You're with the Toronto Sceptres, and we talked a little bit before the show just about the difference in college, playing at Cornell, and then also coming now playing in this pro hockey league with a lot of established women. For you, what's been like the biggest hurdle you found, and the biggest learning curve for you now being professional hockey versus university?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the physicality and then just like the decision making. I thought same thing when I went from high school to college. The decision making, you had to just make a decision way quicker. Like you can't have that extra stick handle. You got to have your head up at all times. Then even more so in this league, I think obviously you're allowed to pretty much check in our league and play the body, so definitely have your head up, but also just being ready to absorb contact at all times, I think, is something I'm still getting used to. I'm not used to always, absorbing hits along the boards or even, in center ice. So that's probably been the biggest adjustment.
Yeah, I think that is a game changer. And we see it now with some of the youth kids. I grew up always allowed to check. At 7 years old, we had full check, and now it's different. And
Well, you were like Matt Rempe back
well, yeah, I had the puck though, so I didn't really.
6'12".
But it's wild to see how much that does change the game. And you see teams that check well and are physical. It's the quicker you can learn that. I think it's so important, and I love that it's integrated into the PWHL. I think it's entertaining to watch as well. I want to ask you. I want to ask you about your high school career a little bit and how you got yourself to Cornell, because we see something in here that just you didn't have a ton of interest. Maybe when you were in high school, you still found yourself at Cornell, which is a great accomplishment. They've had a really strong program for a while. But how did that all go? What was sort of your high school process being like when you decided you were good enough, or you knew, or someone told you were good enough to play Division I college hockey?
Yeah, I think like growing up not around hockey and not having anyone who could really like guide me at a young age. My high school coach was pretty critical, Sean Reed. He really helped me, and even before I was on varsity, he was getting a few calls from coaches, but I was like, I had no idea what that meant. And when I was getting recruited, you could call people at age 12, 13. And nowadays, luckily, they changed the rules. You can't really contact anyone until they're a junior in high school, because I was in no position to make a decision on my future for hockey and just education wise at that age. So it started when I was in eighth grade, and then kind of went from there. But I always knew when I got to high school, I wanted to, get outside of Minnesota, just because I had been here my whole life and I wanted to kind of gain some independence from my parents and the people around me. So I never really considered any schools, in Minnesota. And then Cornell was one of the first teams I talked to. I talked to Doug Darragh, our head coach there, and he's awesome. And I ghosted him right after I talked to him, because I
Nice.
just didn't know what to do. So I didn't talk to them for years, and he thought I wasn't interested at all in their program. And then there was a coach who I had been communicating with at Penn State, who had moved to Cornell, and we had a good relationship. And he got me on campus. Then once I got on campus for a visit and was around the girls and was around the coaching staff, I knew it was the place for me. And then yeah, I was so happy with my decision. It was probably the best decision I've made in my life so far. So
Well, let's talk about Cornell too, and I want to kind of tie it back into the Sceptres. Is you're a captain there?
3 years.
Yeah, you're a 3-year captain. You seem very sharp, and you seem like you really
well,
think the game.
thanks.
You seem like you think the game, and you're very thoughtful in what you're saying and thinking. So I'm just wondering about your captain style and your leadership style, and how that's kind of transferred into the PWHL being a rookie.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely someone who leads more by example or by my actions than words. I'm definitely not one of the loudest girls in the locker room, but especially at Cornell, I took a lot of pride in upholding the standards of our program. And that was something that I
Nice.
always tried to keep in the back of my mind. Just all the people who had come before me, who had put on the jersey, I really looked up for them and respected them, and they've done so much for Cornell, but also a lot of them helped build this professional league that I'm in right now. So I kind of just wanted to show the younger kids, what our program is all about and why it's such an amazing place to play. But also just like ever since I was a young kid, I've loved sports and just loved watching sports, and like all the statistics. And so I love watching hockey. I've always loved watching hockey, so I've been watching for years and years and years. I'm a huge Wild fan, which is not always been the best, but
Sorry.
um,
They'll
yeah,
get there.
yeah,
They'll
it's
make the
been sort
playoffs.
of Well, we'll see. They're kind of on a down. They're spiraling right now.
Well, they
but
don't need
without
players. They're
Cornell
all hurt right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Brody and Eriksson and Kirill out, but I don't know. Hopefully they can hang on. But it's always been like wild card one, wild card two, or the farthest I remember. I was at the game in 2014 with against the Hawks. It was Game 6 of round two, and Patty Kane scored the OT winner. That was the closest I've seen
Heartbreak.
as a fan. But hopefully one day, maybe. I don't know. But
I like what they have.
I think next year's
That's
their year.
Billy G's got.
Yeah, they got all the dead money coming off the books, but
See,
we'll see.
Um,
Yeah, I love all that stuff.
That's
so.
great. You also love milk? I see it says here you're a huge milk drinker.
Canada.
And you got to drink that
I don't
gross
know why
crap
that
from
keeps.
Canada.
I don't know
Be
why
careful,
that's
I'm
like
Canadian. Be careful.
Yeah,
now.
I don't know why that's what everyone knows that about me apparently now. But yeah, I guess one of the first things they asked me when I came to Canada was the differences between the US and here, and it was the bagged milk was one of the first things I noticed, I guess. So
Gross.
that's I haven't been able to shake that one. But yeah, I guess I do.
I love milk. Milk's the best.
I mean, milk's great, but in a bag, it throws people off. But
This is gross.
it's not.
It's a bag of milk.
They say it's more pure that way.
Plastic bag of milk. Perfect.
Yeah, and it's just sitting open in your fridge too. I don't know if it's the most sanitary, but
It's disgusting.
Get
You can
some
say
oxygen. The bacteria is good for you. Come on now, gut health. Gut health.
enzymes.
How have the fans been for you, and especially in Toronto, Canadian fans? And I mean, you're from the state of hockey in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like, how's the difference been for you, and just how cool is it to see fans embracing the PWHL, and just how it's just been like a rocket ship trajectory?
I mean, that's been probably the coolest part. As female hockey players, I feel like a lot of us probably had never played in a crowd that's over a few thousand people. So I think the first eye-opening experience I had was obviously we had our home opener here in Toronto. Was like we play at Coca-Cola, so it's about like 8,500, and it was super loud in there. I could barely even hear my teammates speak to me, which was new for me. But then I think when I was really like, wow, this is incredible, was we went to Vancouver this year for the Takeover Tour, and that was sold out, and the crowd was just nuts. Like I'd never experienced anything like it. I was so nervous. Honestly, didn't play that well, probably because I was like crapping my pants. But
Okay, you can swear.
You can,
but I didn't know if I could. Yeah, I was myself before that game. So, so after that one, I was like, wow, there's a lot of momentum. And then obviously we played at Scotiabank too, and I played a lot better that game because I think I was used to it. But that was even cooler, I think, just because all the fans, they were rooting for us. They were Toronto fans. Vancouver was, they were just, here to see both the teams play, and same we were in Edmonton too. But everywhere we've been for that, the big NHL ranks has been crazy. It's been insane. So it's kind of weird to think that that's like hopefully the new normal for us. I mean, we have amazing fans here. We've sold out every game. So that's been incredible. And just a really cool experience.
Get the city of Toronto behind you. Get some hardware in that city.
I mean, I was we were at the
They need
Leafs.
some hardware in that city.
I was at the Leafs game the other day, and it was pretty quiet in there, I do have to say. So
The library.
I've been on the lower bowl for all season long. It's corporate. It's a joke. They need some of the PWHL
I was
fans.
not impressed. I was not impressed at all.
Gotta get them going.
Easy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was like, yeah, I haven't been to as many NHL rinks to see games as I want to, but I went to Vegas a few years ago to watch the Wild play, and that was nuts.
Yeah.
So,
And
obviously, I think the Wild fans are pretty great too, especially in the playoffs. But yeah, Leafs was not impressed.
No, hopefully they bring some of your guys' fans to the game. But Izzy, thank you so much for coming on, and good luck the rest of the way. Keep it going, and bring some hardware to Toronto. They need it.
Thanks, guys. We'll do our best.